One Piece fathers are either legends or absolute monsters. The real question is, which fathers are on which side of the spectrum? Most hated dads. Number 6. Don Quixote Homing, The Road to Hell. For starters, I actually don't think Homing was a bad guy, but he was painfully, and I do mean painfully naive, which led to absolutely catastrophic results. He wanted equality for his family but exposed them to a world that wanted them dead, leading to his wife's death and the creation of the heavenly demon Doflamingo. The fact that he created that monster alone is enough to get him on this list. I understand him wanting to give up status, but his ignorance of the consequences was absolutely appalling. I think in retrospect, if Homing made the same decision, but chose a more secluded life in the countryside, he would have been way less likely to destroy his family in the process. He proves that good intentions aren't enough to make you a good father. But while Homing's failure came from naivete, our 5th pick was malicious from the start. Outlook III, the business investment father. Here we have a man who treated his own son like a quarterly earnings report. Outlook III, being a high noble, looked at Sabo and saw dollar signs, not a child.
いいか、サボ。お前は貴族にふさわしい知性と教養を身につけ、将来王族の娘と結婚できる男になれ。
そうなれば我が家は安泰。あなたも幸せに決まってるわ。
王族の娘と結婚したら本当に僕は幸せになれるの？
本当だと思う。
そうよ、サボ。
This dude was so obsessed with climbing the social ladder that when Sabo started hanging out with commoners like Ace and Luffy, he literally went out and got a backup child. I'm not kidding. When Outlook realized the Sabo project was failing, he adopted Stelly as insurance. Sabo hated his parents, and he was a disappointment to his parents who wanted a proper heir to carry on the family name. But he didn't care about what Sabo wanted. Any dad who is willing to trade their kid obviously doesn't love their child or care about being a good parent. Which, by the way, Stelly was so annoying. Like, look at this face. It's almost as punchable as that fat prick Charlos. The worst part? Sabo would rather fake his own death than live under that roof one more day. From a man who only cared about social status, we moved to a man who only cared about destiny. Number 6. Red Leg Zeph, the sacrifice that started everything. Zeph found young Sanji starving on a rock and made the ultimate choice. He gave Sanji all the food and ate his own leg to survive. But that's just where his incredible fatherhood begins. Zeph didn't just save Sanji's life, he gave up his entire dream of finding the All Blue to raise this random kid he barely knew. He taught Sanji everything about cooking, instilled in him the sacred philosophy that no one should ever go hungry, and created the foundation for who Sanji became as both a chef and a man. I really want you guys to think about this for a second. Zeph's ultimate life goal was to find the All Blue. That's all that mattered. Think about your biggest dreams, and Zeph gave that up, not for his own flesh and blood, but for a random kid you got stuck on an island with. This is the definition of self-sacrifice and a great example of fatherhood. Their relationship is built on mutual respect, tough love, and genuine care. Sanji still calls him old man with such affection, and you can see the pride radiating from Zeph when he talks about Sanji's accomplishments. Zeph proves that being a father isn't about blood. It's about choosing to sacrifice your dreams so someone else can achieve theirs.
食料は俺にくれたのが全部だったのか？
そうだ。
その足なかったらお前もう海賊やれねえじゃねえかよ。
そうだな。
なんでだよ。余計なことすんなよ。俺はお前なんかに優しくされる覚えはねえぞ。なんでだよ。なんでだ。
お前が お前が俺と同じ夢を持ってたからだ。
And wait until you see the man who literally died protecting a child's innocence. Number 5. Dr. Heerlook, the man who saw Worth in a monster. When literally everyone else saw Chopper as a monster to be feared and driven away, Heerlook saw a child who needed love. This quack doctor with a heart of gold took in the completely ostracized reindeer and showed him what unconditional acceptance looked like. Heerlook taught Chopper about medicine, about hope, and about the power of believing in miracles bigger than yourself. But here's what makes him legendary. His final act was drinking poison rather than letting Chopper accidentally kill him with the poisonous mushroom soup. He died protecting not just Chopper's life, but his innocent heart. This was truly heartbreaking to watch in early One Piece. Heerlook's philosophy that a man only dies when he's forgotten became Chopper's driving force and shaped him into the compassionate doctor we know today.
人はいつ死ぬと思う？心臓をピストルで撃ち抜かれた時？違う。不治の病に侵された時？違う。猛毒キノコのスープを飲んだ時？違う。人に忘れられた時さ。
He showed Chopper that even outcasts can become healers, and that sometimes the greatest miracle is simply refusing to give up on someone. Speaking of miracles, our number 4 pick infiltrated his own brother's crew for love. At number 4, Gold D. Roger, the Pirate King's terrible life choices. Here's the hot take that's gonna get me ratioed. Roger is a terrible father, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Yeah, he's the Pirate King, yeah, he's a beloved character, but let's talk about his actual fatherhood. Roger didn't have Ace because he wanted to be a dad. He had Ace because he heard about Joy Boy's prophecy and wanted to jumpstart the new era.
あの声はきっと真実。誰かが生まれる。そして俺たちを超えていく。俺たちは早すぎたんだ。
ワンピースか。誰が見つけるんだろうな。
それは俺の息子だな。
いねえだろ。
これからできるってんだよ。
Think about this. Roger named his son after his sword. His sword. That tells you everything about how much actual parental thought went into his decision. Roger knew that being the Pirate King's son would make Ace's life absolute hell, hunted by Marines and pirates alike. And what kind of life did Ace get? Brutal childhood filled with self-doubt, constant danger, and death by age 20. Yes, Roger entrusted Ace to Garp, which was smart, but having a child for destiny reasons and then dying before you can even meet them? Not to mention that the reason his mom died was because she needed to hold Ace inside her to hide the fact that he was Roger's kid. It's likely that if she gave birth to him normally, at least Ace would have grown up with his mother, but Roger took that from the boy too. Also, do I even need to bring up the reason he got executed in the first place? Ace was doomed from birth, and worse than that, he was destined to do it without both of his parents. It's safe to say Roger never came back with the milk. But who knows? Maybe he's off on an island somewhere with Tupac and Biggie sipping margaritas. Speaking of pirates who left their families behind, our number 3 pick has 0 excuses. Number 3, Yasopp, the deadbeat champion. Here's a father with absolutely 0 excuses for his actions. Yasopp abandoned his sick wife and young son to go party with Shanks on the high seas. And before you type, but his dreams! His wife was literally dying. Bunchina passed away from illness not long after Yasopp sailed away, meaning he essentially abandoned Usopp to become an orphan. And here's the kicker, every time we see Yasopp in the series, he's just having a great time with Shanks. No guilt, no urgency to see his son, no regret about missing his wife's death, just living his best life while his kid grew up telling lies to cope with being abandoned.
父ちゃんが俺たちのこと迎えに来たよ。そんな母ちゃんが元気になったら航海に連れてってくれるって。
父さんは帰ってきやしないさ。でもね、誇りに思ってるよ。父さんと結婚したこと。
Yasopp is worse than a deadbeat because abandoning your son is one thing, But watching your wife die slowly and you choose to leave both of them? Usopp and Benchina deserved better. At least Dragon has world-changing revolutionary goals. At least Roger thought he was starting a new era. Yasopp just chose adventure over his family during their darkest hour, and that's unforgivable. But even that pales in comparison to the active torture from our number 2 pick. Number 4. Don Quixote Rocinante Corazon, the Silent Protector. Corazon could have completed his marine mission and gone home to safety. Instead, when he met Law, a sick, traumatized child filled with hatred and planning mass murder, everything changed. This man threw away his cover, his mission, and ultimately his life for a kid he barely knew. Corazon spent months traveling the Grand Line with Law, desperately searching for someone who could cure the amber-lead disease. He endured torture from his own brother, maintained his cover as a mute, and never gave up hope, even when every doctor turned them away. His final act was using his Concom fruit to hide Law from Doflamingo, while bleeding to death, ensuring the boy could escape with the Ope Ope no Mi. Law carries Corazon's memory in everything he does. That man turned a child destined for darkness into someone who saves lives. That's the power of unconditional love. Our number 3 pick spent 10 years unable to be remembered by his own daughter. Number 3. Kairos, the toy soldier's eternal devotion. Imagine spending 10 years as a toy soldier, unable to be remembered by your own daughter, but still protecting her every single day. That's exactly what Kairos did for Rebecca. It might be the most heartbreaking father story in all of One Piece. After being turned into a toy by Sugar's power, Kairos could have despaired. Instead, he became Rebecca's guardian angel, training her to fight, watching over her from the shadows, keeping her safe in a world that wanted to destroy her for her bloodline. Kairos sacrificed so much and raised her even though she didn't respect him as her father, and even though she had Kairos by her side and she cried about her parents for years. And all he could do was sit there, unable to comfort her, the way you should, but despite the horrible hand you were dealt, you stepped up even more, and fought every day for Rebecca, even if you were just the toy soldier to her. Your love for your daughter never faltered even for a second. The second where Rebecca finally remembers him and calls him Papa is pure emotional devastation. Kairos proves that being a good father isn't about recognition. It's about showing up every single day, no matter the cost to yourself.
すまなかった、レベッカ。母親に似て心の優しい君なのに。だが今日で最後だ。もう戦わなくていい。
But our number 2 pick created the ultimate found family. Kaido. When your dad puts bombs on you. Kaido straight up put explosive handcuffs on his 8-year-old child. Let me repeat that. Explosive handcuffs on an 8-year-old. These weren't just regular restraints, they were programmed to detonate and kill Yamato if he ever tried to leave Wano. When Yamato said he wanted to be like Odin, Kaido's response was to lock him up in a cave with 3 samurai who wanted him dead and say, "You want to be Odin? Go starve to death then." For over 20 years, Yamato lived as a prisoner in his own home, unable to leave, unable to pursue his dreams because his father would rather kill him than let him be free. The most heartbreaking part? When Luffy finally removed those handcuffs and they exploded, Yamato started crying and said he no longer considered Kaido his father. It took seeing actual bombs going off to realize just how far his dad would go to control him. Could you imagine a father so horrible to say that their kid do as I say or die? If Yamato actually did leave the island and blow himself up, Kaido wouldn't have lost any sleep over losing his only kid. How sick and twisted. Kaido is definitely not winning any awards for being a good father. But none of these monsters compare to our number 1 most hated. Vinsmoke Judge, the architect of systematic child abuse. Judge isn't just a bad father. He's the gold standard for how to destroy a child's soul through systematic psychological torture. This man genetically modified Sanji's siblings to remove their emotions so they could better serve him. He blamed Sanji for his mother's death. He locked him in an iron mask and called him a waste of space and air. Judge represents everything wrong with conditional love and toxic parenting. He didn't see his children as human beings. He saw them as tools to reclaim his kingdom's power. The fact that Sanji retained his capacity for kindness and compassion, despite years of this treatment, shows incredible strength and character. Here's what makes Judge truly evil. He had every opportunity to love his children, but he chose cruelty instead. When Sora took those drugs to preserve her children's emotions, Judge punished the success of her sacrifice. When Sanji showed empathy and cooking skills, Judge saw weakness instead of strength. Judge's only redeeming action was allowing Sanji to leave, but even that came after years of imprisonment and psychological torture. He created a system designed to break Sanji's spirit, and when it failed, he threw Sanji away like garbage. I can also recognize this take might be a little biased, because I think we saw Sanji suffer way more than Yamato, and if you watch Whole Cake Island, I think it's pretty clear Judge caused more emotional damage to Sanji than Kaido did to Yamato. Edward Whitebeard Newgate, the father of the seas. Whitebeard didn't just have a crew. He created the most powerful found family in One Piece history. He took in broken souls from across the Grand Line and gave them something many had never experienced, a father who loved them unconditionally. To Whitebeard, every member of his crew was his son, and he would go to war for any of them. The Paramount War happened because Whitebeard refused to let Ace die. How can a father let his son die, he asked, and then proved it by bringing his entire fleet to Marineford. Even mortally wounded, even facing certain death, Whitebeard's final act was protecting his sons and securing their hope. He died standing up, creating a shield with his own body so his family could live on. Whitebeard showed the world that family isn't about blood. It's about the people you choose to love and protect with your life. Whitebeard was a valiant father to so many that his death quite literally shook the world to its core. But our number one pick made a sacrifice so complete, it redefined what parental love means. Number 1. Bartholomew Kuma, the ultimate sacrifice. Kuma is the greatest father in One Piece, and it's not even close. I'll go as far to say that Kuma officially has the saddest backstory in all of One Piece, and if you don't believe me, go check out this video. When his daughter Bonnie contracted the fatal sapphire scale disease, Kuma made a deal that would save her life but cost him everything that made him human. He agreed to become a cyborg for Dr. Vegapunk, slowly losing his humanity piece by piece. He endured years of being a weapon for the world government, the same people who had enslaved and tortured him as a child. Also, Bonnie could live a normal life under the sun. Think about what Kuma gave up: his mind, his body, his freedom, his identity, his memories of his daughter. He became a living weapon and endured unimaginable suffering, all for Bonnie's chance at life. By the time we see him at Saba Odi, he's barely human anymore, but he still recognizes the Straw Hats and helps them escape. When Bonnie finally learns the truth about what her father did for her, it was one of the most emotional moments in One Piece history. Kuma proves that true parental love has no limits, not death, not suffering, not even losing yourself completely. Honorable mentions with complicated cases. Monkey D. Dragon, the ultimate absent father debate. Yes, he completely abandoned Luffy and never communicated with him, but Dragon is working to create a better world for all children. And weirdly, he gave Luffy exactly what he needed: complete freedom to chase his dreams. I lean toward Dragon being a good father, just unconventionally. More like he's a good father by accident. It is kinda sad though to point out that Dragon did spend more time raising Sabo than his own kind though. Come on Dragon, I'm trying to defend you over here. You're making it difficult. Shanks. Film Red makes this complicated. Leaving Uta on an island of corpses is indefensible, but he was protecting her from guilt and the dangerous pirate life. He sacrificed his reputation to protect her mentally, but abandonment is still abandonment. Honestly, out of all the One Piece movies, Film Red is not one of my favorites, but by the end of it I was left feeling that Shanks is a bad dad for leaving her on the island. Not only is he a bad dad to Uta, but he's the one who convinced Yasopp to abandon his dying wife and young child, contaminating other people with his horrible parenting skills. It's clear in One Piece chasing your dreams and greatness is more important than fulfilling your duty as a parent. Then, on the other hand, you have Shanks risking his life and losing his arm to save Luffy. What's up with everyone being better fathers to other kids besides their own? Garp. The Fist of Love, grandfather who threw his grandsons into pits and off cliffs. Traumatic, absolutely, but it made them incredibly strong and gave them survival skills for the pirate world. His love was genuine, even if his methods were questionable. But the real argument is about his choices on Marineford. Every single One Piece fan watching this video has strong feelings and opinions about Marineford. Look, we all have to stand for something, but at the end of the day, Garp chose the Marines over Ace's life. I'm not saying that Garp didn't care. He clearly loved Ace and his death broke him. He even got close to murdering Akainu, but was stopped by Sengoku. Garp had a choice to make, and yes, Garp would have had to sacrifice everything, his career, his friends, his livelihood. But was Ace not worth that? Then people say Ace wasn't his kid, it was Roger's. But I believe if Luffy was in Ace's place instead, Garp would have made the same choice. And for that reason, I say a man who chooses work over family can't be considered a good father. Diaz Barrels. A special dishonorable mention that almost made the main list. Oda confirmed in SBS Volume 78 that Barrels was physically abusive to his son, X-Drake, throughout his childhood. This Marine turned pirate became increasingly violent as he descended into criminality, beating his own child while forcing him to follow his pirate crew. The situation got so bad that when Doflamingo murdered Barrels during the Ope Ope no Mi deal, it was genuinely the best thing that could have happened to young Drake. Think about that. Having your father murdered by one of the most evil men in the world was an improvement in this kid's life. Drake never held a grudge against Doflamingo for this because by that point, his father had completely lost his son's respect and love. He's easily one of the worst, but his relatively minimal screen time compared to our main six is why he lands in honorable mentions rather than the countdowns. Quick shoutouts. Tom the Fishman gave Frankie his do it with the Dawn philosophy, an ultimate sacrifice. Nefertari Cobra was the gold standard of wise, supportive fatherhood to Vivi. Ginzo stepped up to raise Nami and Nojiko after Bellemir's death. One Piece's treatment of fathers shows us that the best father figures are often chosen family, not biological relatives. Kuma, Whitebeard, Corazon, Hiruluk, and Zeph. These men chose to be fathers and made incredible sacrifices for their children, with the exception of Kairos actually being Rebecca's father. Meanwhile, the worst fathers share one trait. They put their own desires above their children's well-being. Whether it's Judge's quest for power, Yasopp's desire for adventure, or Roger's prophetic ambitions. These men failed because they couldn't put their children first. Oda understands that being a father isn't about biology. It's about showing up, making sacrifices, and loving unconditionally. The best fathers in One Piece prove that family is what you make it, and the worst ones show us exactly what not to do. This is why One Piece is peak fiction. It doesn't just give us cool powers and epic battles. It shows us what it truly means to love someone more than yourself, to sacrifice everything for the people who matter most, and to choose family over everything. What do you think? Did I get these rankings right? Or am I completely wrong about Roger? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe for more One Piece content that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about the greatest manga ever written.